Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. You're here today with me, Jonathan, aka Carnival Muscle, joined today by lovely Joe. Well, to say her last name. Sleep and Slim Down Journey from Joe Sleep and Slim Down Journey. Also featuring Miss Mary the Cat, if she's there today. How you doing? Also featuring Miss Mary the Cat.
Miss Mary is upstairs. I'm sorry. I think this. Have we got some feedback? Miss Mary is upstairs.
Yeah. Do you have headphones or something? Because my sound's been put through your microphone.
Okay, it could be. Hold on, let me make sure this one is off.
There.
Is that any better?
We'll find out in the chat soon if everyone gets upset.
That's it. Rick's saying we've got audio issues, but hopefully, is it better now? I see Sandy's here.
How's the audio? I'll ask Rick because he's quite trustworthy. Rick, how's the audio going? How does it sound if I speak?
It sounds a little bit crackly. Your voice is choppy, says Rick.
We're dealing with 2 gigabytes per second Wi-Fi and 5G maximum 4 bars.
But well, do you want me to start if you need to do anything else with the audio?
Yeah,
I can say later on.
There's nothing I can do on my end whatsoever at all to fix it. Other than going to a different room and just be disturbed by everyone. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just looking through the chat. We've got lots of people here today. Lots of our friends that we know and love. So, for example, I can see that we've got Himani here. Himani all the way from India. Lovely to see you, Himani. And, of course, we've got Zed, Big New Wasnik. You know this person. This person appears on your channel all the time. So they're saying, hi, folks, hit the like button. So be sure to hit the like button for us, please. Then we've got Rick from Charger Mopa. Hi, Rick. How are you doing? We've got Bella Sunset. Bella is from Canada. So it's lovely to see you, Bella, this morning. Very lovely to see you. We've got Rudy here. Rudy, good to see you too. 907 Central. Sandy's here, the beautiful Sandy. Lovely to see you, Sandy. We've got Amy here from Amy Loses It. Fabulous. I hope everyone's having a good weekend. Josephine, is Josephine Australian Josephine? Josephine Cowley, is that Australian Josephine?
That'd be Australian Josephine, yeah.
So it's lovely to see you, Josephine. We've got Karen here. And
my mum, probably.
Is that your mum? Hi, Karen. So yes, is it better now? Do you think the audio is better for you?
Hopefully, I don't know. I've just realised I'm an idiot. I've literally just moved me, but not the camera at all. This is a nightmare. Like, the amount of stress I've been through to get microphone sorted. Now the camera's not working. Everything's broken.
Well, the camera's working. We can see you fine.
No, my camera I spent £100 on, that's not working.
Oh, you gorgeous camera, yes.
It's, that's the point. But basically, I can have my microphone working when the internet works, when everyone else is on Wi-Fi, or I can use my phone and have a crackly voice. That's the best I got. Nothing I can do.
Right. Well, that's cool. Well, we're here anyway. We're here to celebrate your 6 years, aren't we? So there's probably going to be lots of people just celebrating. I don't know if they've got the streamers. They've got, are they throwing up confetti? I don't know if folks throwing up confetti for you, Jonathan. Because am I right? It's 6 years that you've been doing carnivore.
It's not been much of a short, to be honest. I say it's like 6 years if it's an achievement. It's an achievement in terms of milestone, I guess, but in terms of effort level, it's been very easy. It's not been hard. Probably the easiest guy I've followed, probably for the longest as well. So there we go. I'm a long-term carnivore club as well, according to Rick.
That's it. So Rick's saying here that more than 5 years makes you long-term carnivore. Okay, well, I've been since 2016. So I'm a veteran. Although I hadn't realised I was doing carnivore, I thought I was doing old school Dr. Atkins. You know, where you do less than 20 grams of carbs.
Yeah, that's quite a good one. No, I feel like that was more like that had a bit of a strange structure to it. It wasn't like this is the diet you follow, like you follow paleo or vegetarian or vegan. It was like you follow this for a week or two, then this for a week or two, then you eat the snack bars, then you get bored, you fall off, you don't lose the weight, then you start again, then you pay more money to buy the better bars. I've got the ultra plus protein version.
You see, now you're on about the mid-2000s version of Atkins. When Dr. Atkins originally wrote it, there were no bars. The only bar you were expected to eat was a bar of butter.
Have you heard of, I made a video about 2 years ago called, there's a doctor called Dr. Jan Kwasniewicz, Polish guy. So he actually was, basically, he invented the Paleolithic ketogenic diet before the current people that currently do it did.
Oh.
This was back in maybe, I want to estimate maybe 1970, 1980. And the premise of it was around high fat animal foods.
Mm-hmm.
Not be like bit of vegetables, like we're talking like a little, a few little leaves of cabbage on the plate sort of thing. Some soups and broths and things like that. Yeah, a lot of people had that, and they actually, got diabetes and remission. They lost weight, and they had all these sort of like health fixes. What was interesting about that diet was, at the time, that was when they're sort of pushing, the anti-cholesterol, anti-high fat, low carb, we've got a high carb, low protein, low sugar diet, sort of more plant-based diets, I guess. And, yeah, I mean, I'm quite surprised people don't refer back to that more, because that's, other than like the Inuit, the Eskimo people, what it's worth, the people from, well, even the Mongols back like thousands of years ago that ate high meat diet.
Yeah.
People know about those sort of things sometimes, but not the doctors, like the first doctor in clinical practice to actually say, here's a high fat animal food diet. We're going to get these people to do it, and this is what happens. And we got tremendous results. But what was interesting was that there was no more research done around it for years and years and years. Like people never really pushed it, and it seemed more as like a not a hippie sort of diet. It was a bit more like out of the box, a bit like a tertiary sort of thing. Like people didn't really get it, they didn't really understand the principle of it. But it's funny how food guidelines change what we eat, and also the fact that, I mean, after current food guidelines that we have in the UK right now, they did change the Eat Well plate from roughly, I don't know what the station is, but I can't remember what it was, maybe 10, 15 years ago. And they were based on keeping people alive after the Second World War, when people had rations. And they never really got updated from that point. So, it's like when people say, oh, that's sort of the food guidelines. I'm like, okay, so you're telling me that the optimal is to get people just to survive. I mean, it's not like lab, Wistar mice or whatever, any little lab experiments. We're human beings trying to live the best life. So, yeah, it's bizarre. It's quite an easy one for us to dispute, like whether you're scientifically minded or not. If you're watching this, perhaps, like you don't have to go far to really debunk a lot of the high carb, low fat sort of diets, I think.
Well, the thing is, do we want to debunk, or are we actually happy to eat the way we do and feel so much better for it? And anyone who wants to join us can. I don't think we're necessarily in a battle. And it's like you did say before about Dr. Jan's diet. It's very rare we do actually know the name of the doctors. I mean, I think that's why Dr. Atkins is such a marvel, because he's one of the few doctors that we know their name clinically. But with Dr. Jan's diet, that's the sort of thing that Dr. David Unwin has been using to help those with type 2 diabetes to get their blood sugars back to normal level and without the need for insulin, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, talking about blood sugar and stuff like that, I mean, what's your journey? People that are obviously curious, maybe on my channel, following year. What's happened with you then, Joe?
Well, to be fair, mine's an interesting journey, and because I've been a carnivore for 16 years, 10 years this year. So I was first diagnosed with IBS back in 2014, and then I was put through the system to see if I was celiac or anything like that, and they did find that I had a large level of you'll know this, Jonathan, IgA and the antibodies, but the A ones. I had a lot of those in my... Is what, sorry?
Immunoglobulin A?
That's the one. So I had a lot of that in my intestine. So the gastroenterologist referred me to a FODMAP dietitian. And through the FODMAPs, we did the process of finding out what foods may or may not set off an inflammatory response. And unfortunately, almost all of the complex carbs do. So I really struggle with anything that's lactose based, anything that's fructose, any artificial sweeteners, any oligosaccharides, and that takes a lot of food out of the equation for me. And I'm saying it takes it out of the equation. I could have kept it in, but then every time I eat them, I would have 2 days stuck on the loo, feel really lousy. I wouldn't have been able to have a life. So I did start doing carnivore, or what I used to call Dr. Atkins minus 20 grams a day. And I was doing that since 2016. And I continued to do that. But sadly, my health was getting worse. So I'm not one of those people who are a carnivore and say carnivore fixes everything. There's other things that were going on in my body that my body was still becoming worse. We've now found out that it's primary aldosteronism. And aldosterone, you'll know, is a hormone, isn't it? Is it a hormone? You said you could explain it better than I could.
Yeah, it's responsible for regulating the water balance of the body and the kidneys and things like that. It has interplay with other parts of the brain, how we are wakeful, how we assimilate different foods, what we do with different, electrolytes in the body. The problem with your issue is because it is so deeply genetically rooted, there's very little you can do. And what you just said about, you don't tolerate a lot of the complex carbs. Well, what you might be able to say from ancestral heritage is that you're, looking back thousands of years, your people, your original native people, whoever they might be, might have had a very refined diet. That means they were really, 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 really good at eating the foods that you tolerate now. Then you might have
all the meat,
like myself, from, I don't know, more Scandinavian, northern hemisphere sort of heritage, I don't know. We would have had more, maybe more dairy, maybe more eggs, maybe more fish. And because we had that, we could expand the population quicker, perhaps. Who knows? It's all very much speculation, but means we might have had a more diverse diet. Therefore, our gut microbiome now is more adjusted to it. So you might have had a more specialised diet, the same way Mary the cat has a specialised diet. You give her a chocolate bar, you give my dog a chocolate bar, and went well for it. But we can tolerate some of these things because we've been, big fans of Cadbury for a long time, I guess.
Big fan of Cadbury's. Well, I think it's interesting you put that out there because in my family from St. Lucia, so I am mixed race. My mum's a white lady from Nottingham, and my dad is a very, very healthy, very healthy looking. He's a fitness guru down there, and he's 72 years old this year, still runs his gym. So he runs a gym for his locale. But even with that, he had a first stroke at 53 years old. And so that takes us into the idea of, as you say, the hypertension part of the primary aldosteronism. It can actually finishes off. With that said, though, again, my dad is a huge fan of eating all the whole foods, and he'll eat some veg, He eats a little bit of fruit, but not a huge amount, which is odd because he does have a banana and papaya plantation over there. But as I say, I wonder if the carnivore diet makes very strong people, because I'm from a long line of strong people, and just sadly, by trying to eat the complex carbs, that was then messing with my body, and as well as the primary aldosteronism. So now we're still trying to get that into, still trying to get it, what's that word, controlled. It's not controlled yet. And while it's not been controlled, I now have chronic kidney disease. I have non-alcoholic, I can't say it, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I have hypertension, asthma, severe sleep apnea, and now I've got problems with the heart where because hypertension's just been raging and the sinus tachycardia. So one thing that I'm doing now, as well as having my CPAP machine, is of course I'm using the GLP-1. And the GLP-1, I don't know, you know more about this. I call it a wonder drug, but you'll know more about the science of it. But ultimately for me, I think it's helping with the inflammation, so that I can continue to eat my carnivore diet, my very low carbohydrate diet, and I'm now feel like I'm thriving. Even with all of these damages to my different organs, I feel like I'm thriving, which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's true, yeah. My mum's just sitting there, just puts me on, she's like, right outside my door. It's really annoying. Yeah, so like the GLP-1s, when we talk about GLP-1, we're already talking about one injectable drug and one oral drug. But when we talk about it colloquially, that means, for example, semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide, which isn't out yet. There's more of them to come down the line, sort of thing. But
Yeah.
what basically you're saying is like the medication you're using right now is stimulating or increasing the satiety you're getting from the food that you're eating by delaying the absorption to the small intestine, therefore reducing the area under the curve. So when you eat the food, blood glucose sugar goes up, it goes down after. What we're basically doing is, rather than having that, when you get that peak, that's what damages the cells and the blood vessels. Pouring enough through calcium, platinum, for that. What you're doing is you're taking a drug which, rather than going like that, means it will just digest a bit slower, a bit longer. Therefore, the area of the curve is actually smaller. The load on your pancreas is less. Therefore, your insulin sensitivity is better. Therefore, you're less likely to be insulin resistant. Therefore, you're more likely to have appropriate leptin, ghrelin, dopamine, signaling, things like that. That's how the GLP-1 effectively works. What you're using, I believe, is tirzepatide. So that's got something called GIP in it.
Yes.
That works more so from the standpoint of, I guess you could say, like, in some work on the brain, for like an agonism in the brain, so something which turns on certain hormone in the brain. Some of these things work more through the digestion pathway, so slowing down digestion. And the latest ones that are coming about soon are working on the glucagon pathway. The idea is, if you elevate your glucagon levels, you, in effect, it's almost like an exercise mimetic, but it's not. So your body will think that you need more glucose being released, sort of thing. But what it'll do is, because you're not using that intensity level of exercise, you'll start to burn more fat because of it. So your resting injury potential will increase using those sort of drugs. But the problem is with all of the comorbidities that you mentioned is you don't know how that's going to affect the interplay between all the other medications you've got as well as the conditions that you live with.
Yeah.
So, it'd be very much a trial and error kind of thing. And I mean, a lot of people are against the GLP-1s, but I think we live in a modern world with a society that's got a food system which is not ideal. Like at the end of my road, we've got a sign there for KFC and McDonald's. Everywhere we go, it's not easy. Something like 60,000 new food products are released into the supermarket shelves each year. we've not got 62,000 more types of eggs. We've not got 20 more species of animals to eat. We're still eating beef, chicken, fish, turkey, whatever, eggs, drinking milk, things like that. So it just goes to how much processed food we have, and it's not people's fault.
No.
Obviously, some people out there, maybe they get bored, maybe they're not motivated, maybe they have too much time in their hands or something. But some people are trying, they're doing the best, but their hormone levels aren't reacting as they should because we're not in a natural environment, which would be otherwise. So that's why those sort of medications are useful. The other point people say, but all the side effects, and I say, yeah.
Can I just step in on that point you made there, Jonathan? You was mentioning about the hormones. Well, again, that takes us to the question that Rick's got here about hypertension on carnivore. I was carnivore, but the hormone aldosterone was then kicking up the water retention, which made me have hypertension. But then likewise, it was also kicking out adrenaline. And in fact, I found that I was pre-diabetic on 10 years worth of carnivore. Seems outrageous. But Jonathan, you can explain that to us a bit more, can't you, about why that might be?
Yes, effectively, the body always wants to heal itself. But the problem is, when you get to a certain point, you become less mobile, so you can't exercise as much. Therefore, you can't resensitize your muscle cells to something called it's called the GLUT4 receptor. So that's what allows glucose to get in and out of the cell. If that cell becomes less sensitive, you store less in your muscles and more in your fat. So it almost has like a bypass in effect. So the food, the energy, the calories, so to speak, what you eat would affect your body differently to how they affect my body. Because I can exercise, I can do things I enjoy doing. I've got a bigger bucket. So effectively, we all have a bucket which you might say, this is our muscle glycogen. Effectively, when that glycogen is overflowing, that's when we gain body fat. The problem is people then look at that in a 2D market kind of view and think, oh, if we just take less in, put more out, we've got more space in the bucket, we'll lose body fat, we'll titrate down, and so on and so forth. The problem is the hormonal effect. As soon as we add in the modern processed foods, that bucket, and let's just use, for instance, say people listen to this, calories, so that 2,000 calories you eat, that's what I eat, will be impactful differently on our bodies. And I speculate, and professors like Kay speculate as well, it makes up for about 20% of body composition outcomes. So if you gain 10 pounds of fat, 80% of it is you've eaten too much food, but 20% of it is that food's been bypassed or distributed ineffectively for what a healthy human should have. And that goes down to like the GLUT4 receptor kind of thing. So, like I said, we've all got a limited, finite amount that we can store in our body. But with your issue, you can't exercise, you can't increase your muscle mass as much. Also, with the heart issues, the primary aldosterone, when you try and exercise, these things stop you. All these like other comorbidities will stop you exercising. So the way that Joe might be looking sort of go about this, it isn't a case of, oh, just stop eating, it'll fix everything. No, that will probably kill you in a few days. Because it would raise all the other things, its hormones wouldn't work right, the medications would very unbalanced, so it wouldn't be effective. And any time you lose too much fat too fast, you release more toxins into the bloodstream from your fat cells, which means that you've then got more of a burden against yourself. Your body doesn't want to be stressed out. So then you'll start eating more food, so your body slows down that titration, or titrates or staggers down that fat loss in effect. So the way you're doing it makes most sense. So it's like, okay, I'm giving myself 6 months to a year, whatever it happens to be, and I lose 1% of my body weight maximum per week. That's a safe level of amount of weight you can sort of lose over a long period of time. And then what your goal is, you might say, well, I don't know, it's 30 pounds, say, so that's 2 stone. Okay, now say someone was 300 pounds, for example, you're looking at, what's that, like 10 weeks?
Yeah.
£3 a week.
that's quite achievable. So that's the sort of approach you would use. But for me, it'd be a different approach because if I lost that much, I wouldn't be able to train so my strength would drop off too far, the muscle mass would just fall off. So my approach would be different to a lot of people. So I might, because I'm already lean, I might go to 0.5% body weight per week. So when I start my prep, let's just assume I'm 103, 4 kilos right now. We're looking at maybe, let's say 0.75, 0.6 kilos per week loss. That would mean I'd lose weight to get into fat to get into the right shape. I'm not got too far down deep into my injury cells that start to lose muscle. I can still train, so I can still keep that buck I spoke about earlier big, so that when I eat more food, I'm not going to instantly gain a load of food. So, yeah.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Jonathan, because another thing that you and I do so differently is that I do intermittent fasting. I only eat one meal a day, whereas there's no way that you could do one meal a day. It would completely impact your body differently to the way it impacts mine. Would you be able to explain a bit more about how that works?
Yeah, so effectively I eat more than Sean Baker, who's like the main carnivore person out there. Sean Baker, even him, he's been doing this for like 10 plus years now, probably. Even him eats like 2 meals a day and sometimes an extra snack. But he's accustomed to that. Whereas me, my background is always, for the most part, been eating 5, 6 meals a day. Right now I eat about 4, occasionally 3 if I sort of run out of time, I can make a bigger meal here and there. That's how I get enough food in. But my output, my expenditure, my needs are much higher than most people, so I need more food. But at the same time, I'm 6'1", my brother about 6 foot. Our stomach capacity is about the same. So we're looking at just at rest 400, 500 milliliters. So me eating 2-3 kilos worth of food each day, one go, my stomach's gonna go, and it's not gonna digest as well, in my opinion. It's not to say I wouldn't still be able to do it, it just wouldn't be comfortable or enjoyable. What I'm trying to achieve isn't necessarily, how to put it, I'm trying to achieve something which is difficult, which I'm not meant to be able to achieve. It means I have to do things which are more difficult, which are hard for people to do, to achieve. So it just means you have to change your goal. So, when people talk about like, oh, this is the best amount of meals per day you should eat, I would say, how many times per day I'm hungry? Okay, now stuff yourself in that one meal. Is that enough food to keep your weight, stable if you're trying to maintain your weight? No. Okay, you need 2 meals. Okay, does that work? No. Okay, you need 3 meals. So that's how it should work. So people think there's this massive benefit, but yeah, I mean, for yourself, yeah, there is a benefit because of your sort of eating history, just like your background, and the amount of food that you're trying to eat in order to still be able to lose weight is lower than what mine would be. So you have less meals. And if you're hungry once per day, and it allows you to stick to that methodically, reliably, and to be scientific, reproducibly, that's what you need to do. You're not wrong for doing that. So, I mean, I know some people that eat 2 meals one day and 1 meal the next day. Then there's not any hard rules in it. I think the only problem is for some people is when they start getting to that point where they start snacking. With snacking, you never really hit that satiety response. So having like a, I don't know, and 1 egg, it's a snack. But you're better off just eating a meal. Then you'll get there's different forms of satiety. You get the stomach swelling satiety through the mechanoreceptors in the stomach and the gut. You get the nutrient density satiety. So, salmon, eggs, cheese, and meat is going to be more nutrient dense than just beef on its own. So, you see what I mean? So you have to sort of put a diet based on what, 1, you tolerate, 2, you can do every single day based on how long your objective is to reach your goals. With the right amount to still stimulate those satiety mechanisms so you can still adhere to it. I think that's where people go wrong. They ask me what I do, and I'm like, it doesn't matter at all what I do remotely. There's 1,000,001 permutations of what I do and what you do, Joe. So it doesn't matter. What people forget sometimes is you're trying to reach a goal. You just need to find a way to reach that goal. It doesn't necessarily matter how, why, what you do to get there. If you have to use a GLP-1, then go for it. You know, it's certainly got more efficacy than calorie counting. Calorie counting we see in studies, at best, like 5% of people reach their goals. But what we're looking at with these sort of drugs, they are drugs, guys. They are medications. Yeah, they are prescribed. You're getting a lot more than that. Yeah, there are side effects, but I mean, if you had at least a double or triple success rate versus no benefit, you might as well, you know, if someone's willing to use them and deal with the side effects and read around it and get prescribed it and have the right medical check and things, yeah, you're doing it a better way. You're doing it a more efficient way, and you're using technology to your advantage. You know, it's not everything that's scientific and new and modern is a bad thing. And I think that's what we call an appeal to nature fallacy. The idea that everything natural is good. It's like, well, if you put me out in the wild, I'm not going to survive very long. I need, you know, to have to drink water. I need a packet of salts in my cupboard to hydrate. You know, I'm not going to last long in the wild. So nature in itself is good up to a point. There's certain things here and there which tell us forward. I mean, imagine we're still stuck not using bloody wheels.
Well,
your life without a wheel. No Amazon orders. No
Amazon orders.
No meals out. Definitely Amazon order. That's a bad one. I don't know. You've got to push something in your house, like a new fridge freezer or something. Oh, you're gonna have to pick that up now rather than roll it. You see what I mean? So people.
It's a tool, isn't it?
A lot of these things
it's a tool.
Daft. Yeah.
Now, you did mention in there about the intermittent fasting and how it would, you know, it's harder to get more calories. But my rheumatologist was telling me the reason why she was suggesting the intermittent fasting was because of the insulin resistance. I had a huge amount of insulin in my body, even though we don't actually measure that in the UK. But we find out that you could tell by things like having the brown necks and things. What are your thoughts and suggestions for people who are insulin resistant and not necessarily want to go carnivore, but want to change the way they eat or the foods that they eat in order to improve their insulin sensitivity?
I'd take out all the processed foods as the first thing, the easiest thing. Now this is like just broad advice for the average person that is on the street and chatting to the bus stop sort of thing. I've not got 20 minutes to speak to them about diet and all these things. You know, they want to know two or three little key points. Get rid of processed foods. One. Try and get about 40% of your diet, ideally, protein. So 40% of your plate, or anything like that, is going to be better because it's going to give you more satiety. Therefore, you're less likely to overeat. More nutrient density as well, because you're eating protein. Protein, by default, is most nutrient dense. In Greek etiology, it means the first or the beginning or the start, something like that. So, you know, even the Greeks knew back then, you know, if we want people to begin something to live, it takes protein. You have to, you know, you have to have something to make something in effect. The other essential nutrients, fat as well. I think a lot of people on low-fat diets tend to have issues sort of maintaining hormonal function, things like that.
Right.
So people just be like, oh, it just means you've got, you know, lower testosterone, you don't need enough fat. No, it's much more than that. All these hormones, guys, they're not just testosterone makes you, I don't know, aroused, excited and stuff. It does all this other stuff around all these different biological pathways and other hormonal, you know, levels that you don't even realise. So you could draw someone's blood. Oh, you're low on testosterone here. Okay, but what does that really mean? You have to look at all the other individual hormones to find out. But the problem is that one, people don't want to follow what they're doing in terms of their blood work all the time because it's expensive and annoying. No one likes being stabbed in the arm. The other thing as well is you're almost becoming reliant on a chart or something to tell you what you should eat. And human nature by default evolved over 3.5 billion years or whatever it's happened to be. And can look at that and think, well, we've got this far without doing all this stuff. What did we used to do that we know that's got us to this point? If we look at that, we say 99.9% of what we've eaten, probably over the past whatever, as a human species, has been predominantly protein and fat. We know that's got us to this point. Everything else is background noise. So that's probably how that's how I'd approach the intermittent resistance thing. Then you can expedite these sort of things like through exercise resistance training. If you can't do that, you can do walking. If you can't do that, do anything, sat on a chair, anything. Do more than watching just these demos, guys. That's my tip.
Now, you also mentioned there about health and, things that we may or may not be able to do. And like, my story in that I was struggling with mobility, massively so, at the start of my journey. Again, just because of how much water retention was in my body, all my joints, everything was swollen. I couldn't stand on my feet and hold 25 stone worth of weight. But could you tell us a little bit more about your health journey and the things that you do and the reason why you went on to carnivore?
Yeah, so my first introduction to anything dietary, like at all, probably about 12 years old. And, I didn't eat anything for 2 weeks. I just drank water. I believe at the time I weighed something like 67 kilograms, something like that. By the end of the 2 weeks, I weighed 67 kilograms. I didn't eat for 2 weeks. I was like, that doesn't make any sense. It wasn't like I felt like fat or anything. I was just trying to I don't know, I just read it somewhere and it said it was for me. Like, back then I was quite naive. I never really cared that much about things. I just thought that'd be quite fun to do. But I think it's more self-destructive than anything. Yeah, so a few years went along sort of thing. I noticed people around me buying Weight Watch magazines and stuff. I'm like, I can't lose weight, this, that, and the other. I'm like, sure, you just eat less food. Like, sure, that's what it is, logically. It turns out there's a lot more to it. That's when I then decided to do my degree in human nutrition. I graduated in 2018. Since then, I've just been researching thoroughly every day for the past 7, 8, 9 years. Before that, even I was researching before that. So, yeah, my health journey kind of, I guess things really started to get bad when I got glandular fever about 13, roughly. Also got fatigue as a result of that, the Peptide bar wire. So automatically I was already on the back foot. Then I had an injury to my spine. That made things worse. I became, I want to say less mobile, but something like I could still do things like go to the gym, exercise, do sports and things, but it just became increasingly more difficult, more painful as time went on. Then in 2022, I had a spine fusion surgery. That didn't go very well, guys. I've got stories about that all over my channel if you want to have a look. But yeah, so that left me with a chronic pain condition. Since then, it's just gradually got worse. But what I can say is every time I go back away from what my current diet is, I feel just a bit worse. It's like a case of I'm a bit different to a lot of people, and perhaps like Rick and Rich. A lot of people start kind of a diet like, I started and I've lost 10 pounds and I've got rid of diabetes. But I'm not one of those people. I know the damn effects of what happens when I don't follow that sort of diet. I've got a bit of a juxtaposition in that kind of sense. But I've also been lucky to sort of learn from a lot of people along the way through different means, so collaborating online, coaching clients and things, and sort of I've worked out there's more than one way to skin a cat. Sometimes you have to use soft skills in coaching rather than just, do this, do that. Because if it's that simple, it will be perfect, but it's not. It's not going to happen for everyone. We're always trying to improve ourselves in some way. We're not born that way to be perfect. But I think there's a lot of mistakes people make along the way. So a lot of my content online now that I make as a content creator is obviously free. So actually, about 98% of what I have online is free. Just like the resources I have, ebooks and things like that. I've been able to sort of enjoy some of the benefits from that. So I set on the razor actually last year, around about March time, I think, or April. Was it May? I can't remember. Sometime 6 to 9 months ago, and I sort of thought, yeah, I was struggling to afford medication from a condition that's not my fault. I've got an online audience that support me and care about me and trying to sort of improve my well-being and sense of being human. And that's allowed me to sort of do more things, and that's I've got a more enjoyable life now. It doesn't mean that it's a pain away. It doesn't mean that my life outcomes are going to be totally different long term. But it means that at least right now, it allows me to sort of persist and keep making content, keep helping out other people, and enjoying reading positive comments sometimes. That's always nice as well. And yeah, so, I mean, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's supported me so far at this point. 6 years into carnivore diet, so yeah, it does mean a lot to me. I'm currently on a bit of a YouTube ban, by the way, guys. If you're wondering why you said something nice to me and I've just got heart by it, that's all I can do. I can't do anything else. It's not letting me comment. It says error, cannot proceed or whatever. So yeah, but I've reached out to people I know, through email or WhatsApp or Instagram, whatever, if I can. But yeah, and since then I've been diagnosed with all sorts of funny illnesses, and I live with this absolutely brilliant trifecta of autism, chronic fatigue, and CRPS type 2, which is probably as good as it gets besides being terminally ill. So yeah, but in that kind of sense, I'd say it's introduced me to lots of new people as well along the way. I've learned a lot of new stuff along the way, but also I've been humbled in some senses because I've realised as much as I've learned from my own experience and others, I realise how little we do know, which means what we see out there and we think is out there in terms of scientific facts and absolute best practice, there's more work to be done, and a true scientist, for what it's worth, never stops trying to learn, and is always trying to disprove their own hypothesis. So my current hypothesis, I guess, is if you want to live a long, happy, healthy life, have a good social network, go to the gym if you can and enjoy it, do resistance training to a safe degree using sensible methods, eat a ideally animal food-based diet, reduce processed foods, nature as much as possible. It's simple stuff. I think it's not really too contentious, I guess. But yeah, I mean, what's your
Can I stop you there? Can I stop you there a second, Jonathan?
Yeah.
So you did say a lot there, but a lot of the things that you did say was about the social network of it all. Now I can see the people who are in the chat. There's a lot of people here in the chat that you appear on their channel, or you're coaching them. Could you tell, for those of you that are there and know Jonathan, and we're celebrating his 6 years today, would you mind throwing up some hearts or confetti? Do the emojis for us, just throw those or put them in the chat. That'd be wonderful, just so that Jonathan recognises that it is a celebration. I keep saying, Jonathan, I'm going to make you smile all day today. It's a fun day. But can I ask you now, Jonathan, you did mention the fact that you had that injury at 13. But you keep reflecting on the fact that you do enjoy going to the gym. What was it about bodybuilding that called to you? Why bodybuilding?
I guess it's an all-weather sport. You could say it's a sport or a pageant, really. Depends how you frame it. I'd argue it's a sport. It's all-weather, so you can always do it. It's not like horse racing. You can only do it when it's certain ground, certain temperature or touch or wetness or something. It's not like golf where you might have to use an indoor mini golf thing, or you can do it anywhere. Like my brother's got a gym in his garage. In the lockdowns, we had a gym trained outside. When I trained, and it's not been lockdown, I trained in a gym. There's no sort of limitations there. I don't like things that I can't maintain or continue or do reliably. So anyone knows who knows, there's nothing really I do that's out of the box, nothing new. It doesn't mean I'm not spontaneous, it just means I revel in the things that I can be passionate about and find a little trend, sort of like find a way to improve upon. Because ultimately it's human nature to improve. I mean, none of us really, I don't think any of us really sit there at night, 60, 70 years old and think, I'm just going to do nothing tomorrow. I'm not going to achieve anything tomorrow. I'm going to go to bed, have my food just to nourish myself, and not achieve anything the day after that. No, we all want to do something, and obviously our passions towards things will change, and that gradient of anticipation and challenge will be different. I mean, when I'm 90, I doubt I'm going to be wanting to sort of step on stage in bodybuilding with it, don't I?
You could.
Yeah, I think that's kind of my stance, really.
And can I also ask then a little bit more about the coaching that you do? Do you do coaching for bodybuilding as well as nutrition?
Yeah, I do both. So I think a lot of my clients that come to me, it's been a mixed bag of these, but a lot of my clients that come to me tend to have some similarities to me. They'll either be autistic or
Heavily involved in resistance training, strength training, or they have some sort of similar injury to me. They'll see what I do on YouTube perhaps and they think, well, that's pretty good. Oh, he can still do that. Well, that's achievable. You know, so I think that I smash down a lot of boundaries that people might otherwise have. I think sometimes, I get messages like this every single day, like, oh, you inspire me about this, or I'm impressed that you can do this. And I explain how I do it, and it just clicks to them. It's like, oh, yeah, I could do that as well. It's possible. It's on the table. What people fear most is that they have something they want, but it's not on the table. So I like to try and show people that it's still possible. You know, within reason. If you've got, I won't even go that far. You probably know what I'm going to say because I've said it like a million times in the last week. But if you're someone with certain abilities, yeah, some things are unachievable. If you want to be, for example, a race car driver, Formula One, you're not going to do it really if you've got no limbs. It's going to be quite hard. But look down the line 10 years. I mean, I watched a documentary the other day. There's a guy with a helmet on, and he's controlling some sim thing, like driving around the track or something, just with his head. He's not doing anything. So, you know, that could be a sport for someone else down the line. It's not physical in that sense, but it's still skill. You know, sport's about skill. Also.
And I like that, actually, what you've just mentioned there, because for me, who has got the mobility and the health issues, I have diverse abilities. I don't have a disability. I have a diverse way of doing something. So I don't consider it as a detriment. And we've got a great question here from Kendi K. And can I first start answering it, but then you explain why my answer might be the same as well, Jonathan? So Kendi asks, how is your blood work as a strict carnivore, specifically the cholesterol? So for me, I have dyslipidemia. But the interesting thing is that we spot the dyslipidemia when my lipids are fine throughout a certain time of the month. They're fine when I have the injections, you have the blood works done. But then when I'm unwell and I have the blood works done, if I'm having a flare-up, I go and have my blood works done and my lipids are up like that. So my lipids rise when I'm unwell. I did something the other day where I was wearing the glucose monitor, and if I'm stressed out or if I'm feeling unwell, then my glucose rises again. Is there any correlation with that and the cholesterol for me, or how does it work for the average carnivore? That's my part of that question.
Okay, so what people have to think about, I'll put my summarising thoughts first, and I'll explain it. Every lipid value that you read in a blood test result from your GP or anyone is an absolute waste of time to look at. It's a waste of time to test, and it doesn't mean anything. The reason why I say that is because some of these things are firefighters trying to put out the fire. And if you measure it, you say, oh, I've got a headache right now, my cholesterol was raised, my triglycerides have gone down, or my HDL has gone down, or something like that. Well, that's just what the body's doing innately, naturally, evolutionary, to get to that, to kill your body. it's a signal trying to say, I need more of this over here. Let's put that there so I can fix it. Now the body's not going to create certain things that are going to be deleterious to it. Now, a counter argument to that is, oh, but what about the plaque in your arteries? Well, this has been very thoroughly tested, and it's very easy to test. All you do is get a cadaver, take the blood vessels out of the arteries or things like that. What's in it? 2 to 3% of the plaque in it is cholesterol. But that cholesterol, that blockage, that plaque might be 50, 60, 70% foam cells, which is basically fiber optic tissue, which means the cholesterol's come in, try and clear out or repair that blood vessel, because the blood vessel has been damaged by something else. So it's a case of correlation rather than causation. There's lots of examples like that in science. But yeah, your body will do weird things with blood values all across the board. One example, my EGFR in one blood test recently was 54. That puts me at stage 3A, I believe, kidney disease.
Yeah.
I tested it the next day. It was 70, and up by about 17 points or something, or 16 points. Now, they realise, okay, Jonathan's muscular, goes to the gym, he trains, his creatine level is different. Therefore, the index number, which is the EGFR, so you've got, with a lot of these test scores, you have one number here and one number here. You form like a graph, what do you call it, an index number. So your BMI, waist to height ratio, all these sort of things and things like that. They're just a number with 2 associated numbers with it. But what's to say both of those numbers actually mean anything? So, for example, if my waist was 40, 50 inches, I don't know, but it was all muscle. Like my job was, chopping logs all day, and I had a thick waist because I had a lot of muscle waist. That's going to throw off my BMI. The same thing's true with all of these blood markers. A lot of them don't mean anything. So when you have these rudimentary, run-of-the-mill tests at your GP, not a lot of them really mean much. They give an indication, obviously, to the broad spectrum of people, but for a lot of people, they don't. For myself, my BMI is meant to be, 22 or something. Me to get my BMI 22, I'd have to weigh like 10 stone, 11 stone.
Wow.
I'm never going to weigh that until I'm old and rugged. Probably.
As you say, you're 6'1" as well, aren't you?
Yeah, it's just not feasible. So, the other thing about cholesterol is, like I said, cholesterol is a good thing. Our levels are all different, and our levels are genetic as well. Based on our environment, our toxicity, our exposures, they just don't translate to anything. What else is there really to cover?
Well, I'm just thinking as well, there was a recent study out, wasn't there? This was in the news over the weekend about a recent study showed most people who are centenarians, where they're over 100 years old, they've been tested and their cholesterol's higher. But I must admit that a lot of the time they do those tests in the UK because they want to see if you've also got other issues like possibly the pre-diabetes, because then that message is kind of saying we've got a metabolic issue going on here. Or is that the case? I don't know. I'm still standing up for the Western medicine. I know we're on I'm still standing up for Western medicine because I still believe that I'm here with the help of my very good doctors. I said I was going to get you to smile, Jonathan. you're just laughing at the
What I personally think, with any disease out there, think whatever it is, diabetes, Alzheimer's, the problem you have with current science is we use the wrong measurement to measure the most appropriate indicator of that thing. Diabetes, what is that? Chronically elevated blood glucose. That's how we measure it. We can measure that. We can measure our blood glucose. We can see how much is in it. Now, how do we know if we're reducing our diabetes level or insulin resistance or whatever you want to call it? Well, what cells does it affect? How do you measure what's in those cells? Glycation. So the measurement or way method or metric to use to identify diabetes or reduction of diabetes at current is perhaps HbA1c. The limitation of that is it measures what we've done on average for our dietary approach over 3 months. So if you change your diet, Joe, next week, it's still, that blood test you have for HbA1c will only be representative of what you've done for the last 3 months. There's other things like fructosamine levels, fructosamine. So basically, that'll be measuring the elevated fructose in your blood sort of thing. The glycation from fructose in your blood. So everything you take in will have a glycating impact. So it means it'll attach itself to sugar molecule attach itself to a protein molecule and make it deleterious. So therefore, your body's DNA system, biological biochemical system will have more work to do to get rid of it. So therefore, you have a higher level of a certain enzyme or marker or indicator of that level in your body. So saying, oh, my triglycerides are X, therefore I'm more likely to be at Y. We've got a test for that. Look at that test. So you get what I'm saying? It's about looking at the right measurement, the right thing. Like, it's like saying, for example, how tall are you, Joe? I'm 50 kilos. No, I'm asking you how tall you are, not how much you weigh. Oh, but don't weigh 50 kilos. Can you imagine you like that?
Well, I must admit, I've always been, still an advocate for Western medicine. I still don't understand why someone like me who's chronic kidney disease, I've got inflammation in the glomerula that causes blood in my urine, and that's not been mentioned. That's not been measured since I was diagnosed with chronic kidney disease. So then they're not assessing why there's blood in my urine, even though every time we did the test before I got diagnosed, they'd always find it. So as you say, I can understand where you're coming from in that point. The information is supposed to help feed the treatment plan, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the pathology of all these things is whatever it is. You just have to get the right tests, the right scans. A lot of these things cost money. I was in hospital. What is this last week? I was in hospital overnight the other day, and I have no doubt in my mind they probably spent the health service a couple of grand.
Yeah.
But they used all the wrong tests. They wasted a couple of grand. So I mean, so what they should have done was, rather than using that EGFR, for example, they don't consider like muscle mass, weight, and things like that, and it's done by different races. You've got all these different ways to measure it. The thing is, you're not going to throw out a gold standard test, which is what I've had in the past twice now, to prove or disprove kidney function level, because one, is expensive. Two, means it's going to take take a lot of someone's time up. I mean, when I had that done, it's like a 7 or 8 hour ordeal. If someone's just a bit worried about their kidney health because an enzyme might be a bit high or something, you're really going to put everyone through that meal, sitting in a hospital for 8 hours or something. It's not feasible. So that's. I mean, I'm a big proponent of Bart Case. I mean, I'm not a world expert at human pathophysiology. He's probably one of them. The other person, obviously, is Coach Stephen Thomas. He understands blood markers much better than I do. A lot of what I say is based on medical science, certification, human nutrition degree, and personal experience. But I don't personally look into that. It's not my niche. It's not my hobby. I don't really want to know why people. But it doesn't. It's not my field. It's not my point of view.
You're not interested.
I care about my bodybuilding. That's what I research.
Yeah. And you mentioned there that you got a degree in nutrition. I don't remember what you said, but I'm just looking at this comment here from Karen, and she says, "Thank you, Jonathan, for your extensive knowledge of carnivore diet. I was quite ill. With Jonathan's help, he helped me in my wellness recovery. I went more carnivore diet, more meat, fish, eggs, and raw milk." So for other people who are struggling with their health, what would be your suggestion for the average person? Or are you saying it's not about the average person, it's about the individual? I don't know. What would be your suggestion for someone who is struggling with their health and they think it might be supported by changing the way they eat?
I'd leave it. Honestly, you have to break down boundaries before you build them in terms of trying to develop your health. That's the biggest contention point I have, which is why I talk about like myth busting. If I say to you, well, not you, but if I say some random person on the street, eat more animal protein and more animal fat, you'll feel better for it. I've been told this about margarine being blocked and red meat causing cancer. That's not what the research says. Sorry. Yeah, but that's what the guidelines say. Who wrote the guidelines, guys?
And pesky guidelines.
What does the current research say? When do you last read research? What does the current meta-analysis say? Not that. But the average person isn't trained in statistical analysis. The average person is not by default trained to understand what science means. They're trained through nature, through society. Read a magazine article, read the headline, or read the conclusion. Oh, okay. And that's going to sound really arrogant, but I think most people that read these scientific studies shouldn't be able to comment on them. But it's not a freedom of speech thing. I think everyone should have their opinion, but they shouldn't be able to be absolutist about things, because I would argue, can you look at that data yourself that is transmuted from that study, analyze it yourself using the mathematical skills, scientific skills that you have, and come up with the same conclusion as the person that wrote that conclusion, that article? No, most people can't. So we rely on people perhaps like me, perhaps like Barkay, or anyone else that's trained in this sort of thing to interpret it, because we can actually unpack it and pack it back up again. What we find is when we unpack it and pack it up again, we get a completely different answer.
Well,
get back to the point. Yeah,
the guidelines themselves have only just recently been changed, haven't they? The AMA ones, to show that there's the pyramid now of that rather than that.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of getting back to your point. What was your original question? Sorry, I think I kind of.
The question was that if somebody like Karen, and she's explaining that while she was really unwell, your help has helped her improve her wellness. So what would you advise others who are struggling with their health and they think it might possibly have something to do with something that they're eating or the way that they're eating?
Okay. Well, 99.9% of our genetic makeup is identical, or near enough the same. The idea that we're so different and we have a completely different diet as human species is incorrect. For example, you do not have 2 chambers and I have 4, and then Nightbot, who's a robot, has 20. We've both got a stomach. You know what I mean? We both produce an enzyme at a certain concentration within a certain pH gradient within our gut, which activates to digest certain amounts of food in certain proportions.
What if that enzyme's flawed through genetics, or, as you say, the things that they're eating?
Yes, so that's where the other component is. So if we look at, it's called N15 isotope data. So they measured the carbon levels within long bones of human beings, so like you and I, over hundreds of thousands of years, all over the globe. It's not just in Africa, Europe, everywhere, all over the globe. It's not just isolated little data. They found that something like 70 to 80% plus of their diet, based on scalable data from other animal models using the same metric, which would transpire to the same outcome. We found that 70 to 80% of our diet is ruminant meat and animal fat. So that tells me we've got to this point, you and I and everyone else watching this, from eating mostly ruminant meat and animal fat. That 20-30% difference is where that genetic element comes in. So you mentioned earlier about some people having celiac, no ability to digest certain plant fibers, for example, or plant proteins. And there's the dairy one. Something like 24% of people have the 24% of people have the ability to digest dairy at a good amount because they produce enough lactase enzyme. Then we find, well, a lot of people from the African continent, originally, they don't. Perhaps they didn't have as many cows to produce milk to create dairy. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Therefore, they lost that. They either never had or they lost that genetic mutation that got them to that point. So, say for example, me right now, say it works in reverse as well. So, I do have that genetic mutation to digest dairy well and tolerate it well. Now, if I stop drinking as much or eating as much, then every part of my lineage in the future, for thousands of years, they won't be able to tolerate it very well. So that's where that 20-30% comes in.
And that's the change of the evolution change sort of thing. Right. So this is one big thing that we've been hearing a lot in the GLP-1 community. We are actually real big advocates for the GLP-1 medication is helping you to then re-educate the way that you eat and the way that you exercise. We don't believe in eat less, move more, but we understand a little bit more about the fact of let's get in our protein first. Let's do strength training, because especially for the women of an age, we need to make sure that we're protecting our bones and whatnot. So what would you be able to tell us who are on the GLP-1, both men and women, what would be the advice that you would give us that would help us to keep with the educating ourselves on how we do things, on how we eat?
Stop watching TV is one of them. So stop absorbing incorrect information. Be more refined of your approach in terms of what you take in.
So am I okay still watching Bridgerton then? I can watch Bridgerton.
No more Bridgerton. No more Bridgerton.
But as you say, a lot of the information that we are hearing on the TV and in the media.
Yes, one example is our dietary amount of protein meant to eat, like reference range guidance, is something like 50-60 grams per day. That's not remotely enough. That's not what current literature says to maintain muscle mass. I'm not just talking about bodybuilders or people that go to the gym, people a bit more concerned about body composition. I'm talking about anyone. And 50 grams of protein is not enough for pretty much anyone, unless you're like sedentary and 3 foot tall or something. I'd probably argue something closer to the amount of about 2 grams per kilo, roughly. Something like that. That's a bit more appropriate, but the individuality obviously comes there, where the more protein or muscle you have on your body, the more protein you need to sustain it. If you're 80% body fat, you don't need the same amount of protein. You obviously scale that down. Most people, I think, that would probably benefit them. If I was to give like one guideline piece, it'd be definitely eat enough protein. The bones themselves are actually made of protein. The majority of the tissue is protein. That's how you stave off osteopenia. That's a high risk among a lot of the population group that typically would be using GLP-1s. So you're talking about, I personally know more women that use it than men. The data itself probably suggests about the same if you looked at things broadly who's prescribed it. Majority of people are over the age of 30, 40 years old, so they are higher risk. Perhaps less estrogen in the body, less ability to absorb calcium because of that.
Yeah, the protein elements can be key as well. Also, like I said earlier, it's proteos meaning the first. It's the most important thing. What people can do actually is a bit of homework if they want. Join Carnival Muscle and Joe for homework.
And let me get my jotter.
Get Joshua. Yeah, so what you need to do is go online or any resource you like that makes sense, even a textbook of some sort of scientific information. Look up how much, B vitamins, I don't know, minerals, iron, all this sort of stuff. All this stuff that's in your food. Look what is in, like, say, 100 grams of beef. Okay, do that. And look what's in 100 grams of your favorite acai berry smoothie. Deduct about 20% of that, because that's what you won't absorb anyway by default. Because you only absorb about 80 to 85% of plant foods anyway, and that's at best. But what you also got to factor in is a lot of the vitamins and minerals that are contained within those plant foods are bound up in certain anti-nutrients and fiber, and for a process called chelation. The chelation is when you've got some kind of maybe amino acid, molecule, compound attached to something that the body might need. So magnesium, for example. When that magnesium that you ingest through the food, within the food you eat, is chelated, it means it's bound up, which means it absorbs it. But on the flip side, we can create products now and supplements that chelate it positively so you absorb more. So it's a double-edged sword. But the problem with all plant foods is you don't absorb 100% of it by default, because they're not necessarily human food. It's like trying to run an APK file, an Android file, on an iPhone. It's not compatible. You might be able to jig it up, you might have to change things for the script somehow and make it go, but ultimately it's not the same file type. It's not going to work. So we can obviously absorb some things. It's not that all plant foods are all bad, but there's a certain spectrum of toxicity within all of them. So if I was to say avoid certain foods that have the most negative chelation, we're looking at spinach, kale, almonds, cashews, pretty much all seeds, anything with leaves there enough. Some things as well can be used medicinally, so there's a case for that as well. So some people with elevated, I'm letting out some secrets now. Some people with elevated elevated estrogen might eat more carrots, because that absorbs some estrogen within your body as well.
So elevated estrogen. Have you got anything for people who've got lower levels of estrogen? Have you got a hack for us?
Live more sensibly, eat more animal foods. You need more cholesterol to create human or mammal hormones, basically. So that cholesterol only comes from animal foods. So you get more of something, you usually have to throw more in the mix to get it going. More resource,
I'm with you. So you're not necessarily someone who advocates for only carnivore, then, for example. You more about the moderation, but that includes getting some animal product.
I think if someone gets 70 to 80% of the plate from animal foods, they're doing good enough. I think if someone's got some major life-threatening disease, some sort, and providing they can adapt to it safely and not wreck their guts in the meanwhile, the close to 100% the better, I think. But it's I think people forget the human element, the idea that I'm only going to eat meat when I go out, and it's like, well, if you like a bucket of popcorn once a month or every few weeks, it's not going to make you fat, really, and it doesn't make you diabetic, and doesn't give you bad digestion, and you tolerate it well. Yeah, why not? I don't see a problem with that.
Eat the popcorn, right?
I don't care much of popcorn, but yeah.
There are other people though that will probably eat more carbs, and they'll use that steak as a treat. They'll have the meat as a once in a blue moon.
Yeah. I know lots of people like that. They're treat myself to this 30-pound Waitrose ribeye. that's like 2 grams. And I say, you just bought a whole joint of beef for like quarter of that, half that, you know. Yeah, so yeah, it's funny, like the way we are humans, we have a very split, like how we've grown up and how we develop. My nan, for example, she's like 94 years old. She's got great longevity. But her thing isn't necessarily because she's eaten more plant foods. It's because the majority of life she's stayed at a healthy weight. She spent the longest majority of her life doing the more sensible thing. She's never been a perfect carnivore, a perfect exercise, a perfect trainer, perfect social circle person. But she's done the better option, generally speaking, the majority of the time. And I think some people seem to miss. I think the idea of being absolutely dogmatic and only following one approach, but getting ourselves worked up because of it, if we can't achieve that, it's more a problem. I'd rather see someone be 90% carnivore 100% of the time than being 100% carnivore 50% of the time, you know?
How about 65% carnivore 100% of the time? Because some people just live their pasta.
You're leaving a third on the table. It's like going to the shop. You want to buy, you've got an offer, and you've got, 3 for the price of 2 on your ribeye steaks, and just pick up 2 of them. You've left a third on the table. Do you want to leave a third on the table? Is that part of your sort of prerogative? Not mine, definitely not.
No.
Yeah, it depends your level of need to sort of do that. If that makes sense. Like I know you had some food out the other day. You probably had a bit of sauce here and there or something, and whatever. It's like probably not going to break the bank. Yeah, maybe you gained an extra 25 grams of fat that day because of it. If the 6 other days of the week you've lost 25 grams every day, you're on the better side of things in terms of what your goals are. So,
well, great question. Because interestingly, I went out tonight for food the other day and ate the most amazing plate of different meats. But some of them, of course, did have some rubs on or some salt, some rubs, some sauce. And I've stepped on the scales today and I'm 3 kilos heavier. So I'm like, but again, that's probably down to the aldosteronism, isn't it? And the water weight. So I'm not sweating it. The food was amazing. And I could spend the next hour chatting about how amazing the food was. I'm wondering, do we have any questions from anyone before we wrap this up? What was you going to say there, Jonathan?
Yeah, that's the thing I have with a lot of clients. It's mostly girls that think this. I don't know if they think this, but they always point it out to me. Jonathan, I'm worried. I've gained 2 kilos this week. They'll send me their diet plan, what they've eaten that week, and the amounts. I'll say, just double checking, have you had an extra 2 or 3 kilos worth of pizza this week? No, Jonathan, I've been very strict. I had 3 raisins on Tuesday and half a Mars bar. You think 3 raisins and half a Mars bar weighs 2 or 3 kilos? They're like, oh yeah. Then they never worry again. They trust me because, it's logical, isn't it? If you don't put in 3 kilos worth of food, you're not going to gain 3 kilos. It's just your body doing silly things with electrolytes. It's not a big deal. It's when you're chronically gaining 3 kilos, okay, then you've got a problem. And your food, your diet, your baseline is too much.
So that's a great segue into the next question I've got for you, is asking more about the coaching that you do. So, who do you help?
I help people all over the world, honestly. I've got clients from New Zealand to Australia to Poland to Estonia to US to Canada to South America. No one in the Arctic Circle yet. Not doing very well up there. When until Trump gets over there, maybe it will change things.
We're not mentioning the T word on this live. We're not mentioning the T word.
Yeah.
But
It's
how
just a mix
do
of
you
people.
do it? How do you do it? Because I understand with your health issues, you do have some ability concerns and diverse abilities. So how do you manage to coach all these people?
Well, I keep my numbers very small. So when I work with people, I'm not working with 30 people who I don't know their name, you know, or I sort of form friendships and relationships with all these people. So it's much more manageable. It's more pleasurable. Because when I pick up my phone, I'm not looking at thinking, oh, that's Joe. That's which Joe is that? No, there's probably going to be one Joe, or one Zbigniew, or one Daniel, or one Rory, or one David, or whatever, you know. So that I find that quite easy and quite enjoyable. I've got a very simple process of check-ins. I don't like people to worry about things. I do the worrying for them. I like to keep things really sort of transparent as well. I don't give them plans they can't follow. So usually when I sort of work with someone, usually I'll have an initial consultation if they don't give them thing. I'll be able to sort of suss out, okay, they're a type 1 or a type 2 personality. I can give these people a bit of front sort of thing. Like they'll if I tell them to eat nothing, they'll do it sort of thing. That hasn't happened yet, luckily. But yeah, so there's nothing on any of my client plans or anything I wouldn't be able to do myself. And that's as I am right now. So bear that in mind. But they still achieve what they need to achieve, and I also help people sort of have very realistic goals so that they know, okay, this is the time frame they've got, they give me, and this is how we're going to do it. And I sort of have a rough idea of, and if they ask me, oh, what do you think we'll do by month 3 out of 6? Well, hopefully I aim to get you to this sort of point, you know. With all the people I work with, I try to get them to a point where I don't just give them the plan, I educate them along the way. So when they're curious about something or they query what they're doing, it's not just generic, oh, just stick for the plan, it'll work. No, they want to know. You know, if they're investing in me, they're investing in my time sort of thing. You know, I like to take my time back. So I explain things how they work. And, you know, usually it's a very simple process. It just means, a lot of the time, it just means getting them onto a plan which is better than what they're doing currently. When you've done this so many hundred times over, you tend to know what people need to do. Like anything, like if you're a lifeguard at a pool, you know, okay, that person there might be drowning. This happened 100 times this week, and they're 10 meters away from me. I need to jump out this angle from this part of the pool, and I'll get some quickest by doing it this way. It's the same principle.
I like that. I like that. And so, as you say, if people are interested in nutritional advice or body composition advice, they can come to your channel, they can subscribe to your channel, but they can also get in touch with you about the coaching element of it.
Right, yeah, and I've got lots of free content as well. I don't like to be an absolute salesman, but yeah, if you go through my playlist on my YouTube channel, I've got things on pretty all stuff that you might approach me for based on our discussion today. So probably autism, exercise technique, how to track your nutrition data, how to track your body composition, goal setting. Sometimes just a bit of humour, a bit of sarcasm in some videos.
There's a lot of sarcasm on your channel.
There's a lot on my channel. Yeah, I've produced a few documentaries as well. So I'd say at this point, over about 800 or 900 videos, probably covered every question you possibly have for someone wanting to start or already following a carnivore diet. I'm at the point now where it's not like I know everything, but I'm at the point where when a question comes up on a live stream or Q&A, I'm like, I've got a video for that.
Yeah.
You know, I can start making the same videos again, I guess. But yeah.
You keep sending me to different videos. It's like, Joe, I really should just look. But I like chatting with you, so that's all good. Now, the last thing I want to do before we go then, I just want to remind people that you're actually involved in a Mr. Health and Fitness 2026 competition. Could you tell us a little bit more about that, please?
Yeah, so I actually came across a friend of mine called Brandlin, and he's running for a position, I believe, for some political thing in Las Vegas in the States. I don't know, guys. I don't really watch politics.
Yeah, we're not
he's a
doing
really nice guy
politics.
and no politics. Anyway, so he likes to sort of do different things. He's very out there, like likes to go and achieve things. And he spoke to me and he booked in a consultation about like contest prep and peak weeks, the last week before contest day. So got in touch with him through socials. We had each other and gave me a shout out, all that stuff. I looked at his profile. He's like, "Oh, Mr. Health and Fitness." I was like, "What's that?" Oh, I'll leave it. It's probably just some American thing, I thought, well, actually, I could actually apply to that. I thought, okay, so about 4 or 5 days ago, whatever it was, I set up a profile on it. Basically, it's like an international online voting event with different stages. I believe it ends at some point around April. What it is to find out who the 2026 Mr. Health and Fitness is. Women can also apply, but I believe the timeout for this round is in like a day or two, sort of thing. It might be too late for a lot of people. When I first started it, I was about 20th or something. Within about a few hours, I got to about 4th. And by the end of that day, I think I got to 2nd in my category.
Wow.
So there's multiple categories basically, and each, you basically qualify next round, sort of thing. The top 20 in each category in the first qualifies to the next round, which starts in a few days. Then I believe it's the winner and the number 2 of the next round after that. Then it's the final sort of thing. So it's basically an online voting popularity contest. Luckily, I have you guys to help. So what you can do is you can actually go onto my profile. It'll be linked below those 5 channels, I believe. And you'll be able to sort of see what I do, what I stand for, how I'd invest the winnings. He has $20,000 cash prize, also a photo shoot, which is pretty cool. So if I win that, I actually spend the money, be useful, make more educational content for people like me and other people in the sort of carnivore space as well. Promote my brand and just continue giving back as I always have for the past few years online. That's kind of my goal, but I've got quite an interesting story that we've kind of discussed through this already, and that'll go into more detail throughout. I do kind of explain what my background is, my different predictions, and how I've been able to achieve what I've been able to achieve so far. And basically, you can vote for free every day once. You just sign in, I think it's your Facebook or something, just to authorize it. You have to verify it's a human being sort of applying, not sort of like a bunch of robots. Submit vote, and you can do the same thing every single day for free. And hopefully I'll get higher up the rankings as time goes on. Like I said, I'm currently ranked number 2, so I'm in good stead for the next round. Hopefully I'll be able to win that. And if you're wondering why I think you should vote for me and not the other guys, the vast majority of the profiles I've seen so far all have very selfish endpoints with the money that they aim to raise. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
So what I'll be doing is I'll be using
yours is more for philanthropy.
Mine's more for philanthropy, yeah. I probably need the money more than the other guys as well, to be honest. But it's a case of growing what I already do and helping to expand my reach so I can help others that are helping me, basically.
Wonderful. Jonathan, have you got anything more to add before we close it off today?
You haven't sung a song yet.
I've not sung a song yet. I'm not supposed to be singing. I'm supposed to be matching your energy today. If I'll sing a song, if you sing a song, we'll sing I Want My Soul. I might end with a song for Lee. I can see Lee's on the chat. But no, seriously, I've really enjoyed this today. I think I've learned a lot more. I have got things that I need to go through and ask you again. You know I will. But before I will go and check your channel to see if the information's there. I'll do a Google search and Chattercase, just so that I'm coming a little bit more informed as I ask the questions. But I've really enjoyed it today. It's been lovely chatting with you today. It's lovely seeing everybody in the chat. So thank everyone for joining in and listening and being great viewers. Jonathan, do you want to end it and say something inspirational?
Yeah, well, I think if I can get stuff done from my bed from 20 hours a day, I don't see why you watching this can't. That's my motivation. More rationale rather than uplifting and inspiring. Crack a whip. That's
We're
it.
cracking the whip. I like, sometimes the whip needs to be cracked. So, let's do it. It's Monday. Let's crack that whip.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Jonathan.
Right.
Thank you for today.
Right.
And thank you, everyone, for
Cheers,
joining
guys,
us.
and you. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Build muscle and lose fat on the carnivore diet.